The one thing I do want to talk about a bit more than anything else is slide playing, because Duane Allman is a huge hero of mine, always has been, and for years, you know, I like I said, I was a professional musician really young, making a living, and I was terrified of this damn thing, because every time I put it on, I sounded atrocious, you know, which you do when you start. And so, right before my group formed, and I was in this club band in Nashville that I've spoken about, and I was doing sessions during the day playing on records, I just decided I was going to once and for all, you know, deal with this and try and get good at it. And which meant that I spent a lot of hours on a bandstand not sounding good, which is a difficult thing. And the point that I want to make to you is this, is that, you know, the way as a musician, and again, for what it's worth, I mean, there's a lot of people in here that are a lot older and a lot more experienced than I, you know, but at least for me, the greatest milestones that have ever happened to me as a musician happened on a bandstand, happened in moments of pressure. You have to play, you know, because no matter how much you practice on your own, nothing replaces being in front of people, and it can just be 3 people, you know, it doesn't have to be that many, but you have to do it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. It's a life work. It's just like being a good carpenter or something. And so the point I'm trying to make with this, talking about slide, is that by the time I was going on stage doing this, I was playing on, you know, I'd played on a record that was a #1 record, and I was in this club band and had a mortgage and a house and all these grown-up things, and this thing made me sound like I've been playing guitar 2 hours, you know. But I knew that the only way I was going to get good at it is if I committed to it. And so I just had to kind of suck up my pride and be terrible for a while and know that I could get through it. And you have to kind of have that kind of courage, because, again, getting back to the emotional element of making music, you know, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable, you know. I mean, I'm sitting here right now in front of all you trying to talk to you. It's a hard thing to do, but it's also a really easy thing to do, because what are you gonna do? You're gonna hurt me? You're gonna, I mean, you may, but, you know, in that case, take me now, Lord. But no, but the essence of what I'm trying to say is that, you know, we all kind of, in the modern world, we're kind of numbed by technology. We're kind of numbed by the existence that we live in. And to me, the greatest art, the great music that I love, is devoid of numbness. It's devoid of you know, kind of puffing yourself up. It's about being vulnerable and letting other people see the things about you that maybe aren't as pretty, maybe that you don't want people to see of you, you know? But that's what makes us human. It's, we all have differences, but we all, I think, want the same thing. We all want to be loved. We all want to be liked. We all want to be safe, you know, all these kind of things. And so with music, you know, so often these things end up becoming somewhat of like a shield of like, don't look at me, just look at this, you know. And when this is, I think, at its best, is when it's not this, but it's here, and you are allowing people to see who you really are. And I think that, you know, if you take nothing else away from my time here speaking to you, take that, you know, this is supposed to be a conduit. You know, don't hide behind it. You know, it's fun. It's you know, I'm as much into equipment and and vintage stuff, and I mean, I'll talk to you all day about it, but the most important thing is the human element of music. It's what you do with this, you know. And you don't have to be Miles Davis, you know, to connect with another human being through music, okay? And so allow yourself to be vulnerable, because you might just be surprised what comes out of you in the process. And also, as a listener, I think that that's when we truly connect with somebody, okay? So initially was playing in the middle of the neck with the slide, playing on the G string or the D string. And I'll get to the vibrato in a minute because that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, I could kind of get away with it for the longest time, like in very simplistic ways, you know. Stuff like that. But then the thing that would kill me every time is when I would go to the high E string. That high E string would I can't even do it now because but I would plink and it would sound atrocious and I would lose all my confidence and it killed me for the longest time. So for a while there, I just avoided the E string. I just said, fine, I'm going to try and fool everybody and I'm going to try and play in the middle of the neck. And then all of a sudden, one day I could do it. The thing with, so once I was fretting and not screwing up constantly, then you've got to start working on your vibrato, which, again, sorry to keep overusing that word, but it's important. And slide vibrato is even more difficult than regular vibrato because it's counterintuitive to what I was talking about earlier, which is more of a finger or a wrist motion, depending upon what feels comfortable to you. On a slide, you have to kind of, for pitch, you have to be right on top of the fret. If you go a little sharp, you're sharp. You go a little flat, it's a little flat. So you have to really, in the beginning, you have to really kind of, concentrate. And I used to play in major tones a lot because it's easier to hear if it's off or not, meaning that, like, if I'm in the key of C, so I would sit around and I would play in major key just to train my ear. But the vibrato that I'm talking about, that's it slowed down essentially. It's just a back and forth motion. But it's just, you do it slower or faster depending on what you're trying to impart, It's kind of a medium. If you want to be like Elmore James or something, you can be more aggressive. You can be more aggressive. And again, it's just, I don't have any suggestions other than just, it takes time and it takes attention to, because all these things I'm talking about are nuances. They're not as exciting as other things that others might talk about. But they're subtle, and to me, it's the difference between, and again, I'm not putting myself in this position. I'm saying it's my goal to try and sound like these guys that I think are the truly great ones. And to me, that's the difference between a lot of good and the truly great, are all these little nuances, like a good painter or something like that. So, in regards to the slide, the other thing I want to talk about is I always play in standard tuning, because my goal when I started working on this is I wanted to be able to reach in my pocket at any given time and be able to play it if I wanted to. I wanted it to be open to me as a tonal option, because I don't use any pedals or anything. I plug straight into amplifiers. I don't use anything on the floor. A wah-wah pedal maybe. And so to me it's the options of the controls on the guitar, where I pick. I'm going to talk about all that last here in a minute. But this I just wanted to effectively be another option for me. So the easiest thing to me was to learn in standard tuning so that I could do that more easily. I wouldn't be tied to another guitar that was tuned open. And I like playing in open tunings, but to me, I think Derek Trucks, everybody here probably knows Derek Trucks. He plays an open E, and I think he's got that well covered. He doesn't need anybody else. He's brilliant at it. So for me, playing in standard tuning, some say it's harder. I think it's easier because you actually know the fretboard, and that's another thing that I mention in these things a lot, is that again, I was a long working professional musician, and somebody said to me one day, "Can you name all the notes on the fretboard?" Meaning, E, F, F sharp, G, A flat, A, all the way up and down the fretboard on every single string. And I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, maybe. And I realized I didn't, and I do now. And that's something, again, that I think, if you don't know that, you should. It's important, because, the whole, just like a piano, this is all laid out, register to register. And so you don't get lost and you know where you're going. It's important to know the whole fretboard. So that's another side note. But, and it just takes a minute. Just make a diagram, like, you don't got to buy anything, just write all the notes out and just kind of, sit and memorize it. It takes a couple of days, it's not that strenuous of an activity. But anyway, in regards to the slide in standard tuning, it's about recognizing where these little shapes are where you can make chords, because you can't make a chord like if you were in an open tuning. So you've got spots where you can do 2 notes at one time, and then you've got a couple of spots where you can do 3 notes at one time, and it's kind of using those to your advantage. So, I'm kind of playing in the key of C a lot today, so we'll start with C. So in C, you've got this triad right here that you can work out of. And then you've got this box up here. You've got 2 notes right here. And then on top as well. So it's about recognizing whatever key you're in, and obviously, and up here it repeats, and then it repeats like normal. But so recognizing which box you're kind of going to be in playing slide in standard tuning, and then you've got certain moves that you can do within those. Playing out of the triad position, we'll call it, lends itself to a bit more of a major approach, because you can I cheated, I went up a little bit, but the point I'm making is that one, working out of that, because it has the major third in it on top, major third on top, it lends itself to a more major approach. Whereas if you're playing in a more minor situation, it's more helpful to be kind of in root position, as I would say. these licks that I'm playing right now are harmonica licks. They're Duane Allman was really the best at that. It's a different kind of way of playing slide than necessarily like Roy Gallagher or Johnny Winter or even Ry Cooder to a certain extent. Duane played a lot like a harmonica player. These licks, these slurs, these. Down to the flat 7 a lot. Stuff that's very harmonica, and that's something that I really love. That, to me, that's the style of slide playing that I love the most. And really, I mean, there's only a couple of moves that Duane did successfully, and he did it mostly in open E tuning. So I'm even doing that different than he did because I'm in standard. But you know, it's a lot of, like I'm saying, there's a lot of that slurring. I talked about the flatted fifth earlier. One of his good moves was basically fooling with the flatted fifth in that. It's not really a flatted fifth, but it's it's slurring through it like a harmonica player would. That's something he did a lot. And also, like I'm saying, this flat 7 slur. He did a really good. He played on a Aretha Franklin song. It was her cover of "The Weight," and it's like my favorite thing. He did in B flat. Something approximately like that, and that's the essence of what I want to sound like on slide and try to.